morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here's your detailed weather forecast update for Friday, the October 3rd, 2025. Nearly got that one wrong. Can't believe how far we are through the year. There's not too much to get through today. We do have a bit of a recap on the thunderstorms from last night. We've got some rainfall and storms also expected in North Queensland and parts of the Northern Territory, and the next thunderstorm outbreak on the forecast, we'll get into the details about that. But apart from that, it will be a quick forecast update. If you're brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. Let's get stuck straight into things with just a brief recap on what we saw last night through parts of the Sunshine Coast and the Wide Bay Burnett Forecast District in Queensland. My oh my, what a bunch of storms they were, especially in a night that wasn't forecast to be anything too crazy by most major forecast models. But have a look at came through here. Maryborough, just outside of Hervey Bay in the northern parts of the Sunshine Coast, copped an absolute belting from a massive hailstorm. I've got all sorts of photos and videos over on the Facebook page, but they had up to 5-centimetre hailstones, and radar was estimating hailstones up to 8 centimetres in size just to the northwest of the town. But my, it was a storm, that's for sure. A strong storm was going to go for Hervey Bay, but it passed just towards the north, and to be honest, they dodged a bomb, not a bullet. They dodged a really big thunderstorm impact there. But it just goes to show that even in environments that aren't widespread favourable conditions or don't have widespread favourable conditions, you can get some absolute whopper of storms, and that's exactly what we saw last night. Bundaberg copped a bit of a thunderstorm or two later on in the evening hours. Gladstone and Rockhampton had their domes up and they didn't see any thunderstorm activity. Rockhampton, we didn't expect anything. In Gladstone, I did remain hopeful for, but nothing developed there. And it definitely was the area around Bundaberg, or at least just towards the south of Bundaberg, where the strongest storms were there. So the forecast absolutely bang on, even a week away, minus a few discrepancies in the details that you get with these high, long-range thunderstorm outlooks. But again, absolutely bang on from the forecast, and the modelling was absolutely great for this thunderstorm outbreak. So that gives me great confidence going into storm season 2025-26. The warm-up show that we've seen overnight in parts of central Queensland and the northern parts of the Sunshine Coast, very, very good to see the accuracy that the forecast models have came back with. Very excited about what has to come in storm season. And just to put all worries at bed, I know a few people are still concerned about thunderstorm activity through parts of southeast Queensland. There's nothing on the forecast at all. Not today, not tomorrow, not for another week. We don't have any thunderstorm activity at all to be talking about. A few showers possible here and there through tomorrow morning into early tomorrow afternoon through parts of the Sunshine Coast, and those showers will persist into early Sunday morning, but we're not expecting anything too crazy there. Just a millimetre or two from the very isolated shower that comes through here and there. But you can see right out to about the 9th or the 10th of October is when we start to see those chances of thunderstorms increase once again. The 10th, which is Friday the 10th of October, could bring a decent outbreak through parts of northeastern New South Wales. I'd remain pretty sceptical with that until a little bit closer up to the forecast, just considering the southern stratospheric warming event that will suppress storm activity through this part of New South Wales as well. So I'm going to remain a little bit skeptical with this and take that forecast with a pinch of salt. On the 11th of October, you can see very minimal storm activity expected through the northeast of New South Wales. And like I said in yesterday's forecast update, we kind of break the thunderstorm outbreak or the thunderstorm outlook into two separate parts. One around the 10th of October and then another one around the 14th or the 15th of October. And you can see on the 14th, south central Queensland sees a half decent outbreak, and then on the 15th, that thunderstorm outbreak extends in a very minor capacity into southeast Queensland around the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area. What I would be expecting though, and what I would like to say is just for Queensland, southeast and southern regions, it's really a patchy thunderstorm outbreak and a really patchy thunderstorm forecast. Whilst there will be places that pick up some good thunderstorms, such as Charleville and Roma on the 15th of October and the 16th of October, and then into the northeast of New South Wales on the 10th of October, for a wide swathe of southeast Queensland, including Brisbane, the Gold Coast, Toowoomba and the Sunshine Coast, thunderstorm activity is not really expected to be widespread out until about late October, and that's just going off the medium range weather forecasting. It could actually go a little bit longer than that, out into late October or very late October or even November. Thunderstorms have been really slow to start across southeast Queensland so far this year, with only one notable outbreak, and that being the last 2 days. And then before that, we really haven't had anything. So Queensland is hanging out for a bit of thunderstorm activity, but there's not an awful lot on the forecast, or nothing that I can say with a high degree of certainty is going to be that distinct spring outbreak. Again, it normally does take a few weeks for the weather to change, and only a few weeks ago we were talking about proper midwinter into early spring weather through parts of southeast Queensland. So we will be waiting for a few more weeks to see the weather properly change through southeast Queensland. But at this point in time, there's nothing on the forecast, not for the next 2 weeks across Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And you can see, as a matter of fact, through parts of central Queensland, that rainfall forecast that we were talking about a few weeks ago has really been bumped down a few notches. Whilst there will be some thunderstorms on the forecast for central Queensland going out into mid-October, October. There's not an awful lot on the forecast modeling at this point in time, and between other major forecast models in the medium range, there is also not a lot on the forecast modeling out there too. So it does look like the forecast has changed a little bit, and it's definitely changed in the way of a reduction of rainfall through parts of central Queensland and also for southeast Queensland as well. But once we were talking about a multi-day severe thunderstorm outbreak around the Burdekin River catchment area as a possibility around October 15th, that's really been dropped from the forecast modeling at this point in time, and it doesn't look like it's going to be returning at all. So again, that'll be something to watch at this point in time, definitely into central Queensland if thunderstorms do return, which they're not likely to do at this point in time. Now, I don't really have a proper explanation as for why that is. It's just forecast models changing here and there as they normally do, but we will be seeing a bit of a spike in rainfall and thunderstorm activity after about the 10th of October through parts of the Cape York Peninsula, and specifically into early next week, we're actually going to see a surge of moisture move up into the Cape York Peninsula, which could give the Cassowary Coast and parts of the Daintree Rainforest and just areas of North Queensland in general some good rainfall through next week. So Monday showers will return to the Cassowary Coast. They're not expected to get too heavy on Monday. They will dry out a little bit actually on Tuesday and Wednesday, with rainfall and storms moving a lot further north of the Cassowary Coast. And then you can see this coastal trough really beginning to move a little bit further south and deepen up a little bit as well. And you can see that does bring some rainfall through Wednesday and Thursday, the 8th and 9th of October respectively. Now, it's these sort of things where we start to see the rainfall on this colour scheme at least change from blue into the greens and the yellows, where we're going to be talking about heavy rainfall and storm chances for North Queensland. Now, I'm very much still in remembrance of the flooding event that happened about a month ago now through parts of northern Queensland around the Cassowary Coast. This is the type of rainfall that was forecast. It's nothing that sticks out, but it can stick out like a sore thumb through North Queensland. When it does begin to fall, we can see some big numbers. So this is the stuff that I'm looking out for, and to see it on the forecast already has me a little bit concerned. So the 9th of October, you can see rainfall and showers expected to move through into parts of the Cassowary Coast and the Daintree Rainforest, and then it's just on and off showers out to about the 14th of October, when it does begin to ease off a little bit up around the northern parts of Queensland. But it looks like we're going to have a 3 or 4 day shower event, with at least one of those days bringing in some moderate rainfall to parts of the Cassowary Coast and the Daintree Rainforest. So how much rainfall are we expecting for the Cassowary Coast and the Daintree Rainforest? Well, widespread falls between 60 to 80 millimetres are expected around the 9th and the 10th of October, and some isolated rainfall accumulations up to 150 millimetres are also forecast. So nothing crazy is expected, definitely not the stuff that will cause flooding or any kinds of rainfall emergencies up in northern Queensland, but it is enough to keep those rivers topped up, and it is enough to continue some of the flows we're already beginning to see into some of the rivers through northern Queensland. Then again, through parts of the Atherton Tablelands especially, and through other coastal locations, it is really beginning to dry up across parts of northern Queensland. So then again, this rainfall might be very much welcome once it does get there, even if 200 millimetres does fall, which for northern Queensland normally isn't enough to flood a drain pipe. It's pointless looking at the medium range rainfall accumulation predictions up in North Queensland. It is never right, and it's often always wrong by a very significant margin. But to see some significant rainfall numbers here from the GFS forecast now beginning to develop north of the Daintree Rainforest and quite close to the coastline, it is beginning to get a little bit concerning. We definitely could be talking about some heavier rainfall out around the 9th and the 10th of September, plus or minus 1 or 2 days from that point in time. So definitely will be a place to watch. Northern Queensland is something that I will be saying that this is a heads up that rainfall is going to be coming in for your location shortly, as opposed to rainfall is most certainly forecasted. I think it is still a little bit too early to be able to say that at this point in time. And it does look like we might see a bit of a weak low pressure system as well through early next week, dipping down from the Solomon Sea, and you can see that really does begin to enhance that monsoonal flow, or enhance that moisture flow rather, through parts of northern Queensland, and then that translates into thunderstorms for parts of the top end of the Northern Territory. I mean, have a look at this. Over the next 14 days, we're expecting blobs to be pretty consistent through parts of the top end of the Northern Territory, and especially through WA as well today and tomorrow. We're going to be seeing a frequent outbreak of thunderstorms, and then starting Saturday, but really picking up on Monday and Tuesday next week for parts of the Northern Territory. We've definitely got some good thunderstorms on the forecast. They'll take a couple of days hiatus, and then returning after the 10th of October, we get some better thunderstorms around Darwin and just through the top end of the Northern Territory in general. Things really beginning to warm up there, and thunderstorm activity also beginning to show rumbles of life, no pun intended. But yeah, good thunderstorms through parts of Western Australia are also expected tonight. It is a very convectively favourable environment, and north of Giles, right up through the border communities around the Northern Territory, WA, into the Kimberley region, we will be seeing some decent thunderstorms far up there tonight. In fact, we're already seeing a thunderstorm or two here far up north of Kiwakara and Kintore, here just towards the north of Giles, in fact about 200 kilometres north of Giles, and this thunderstorm's actually been ongoing for about 6 hours. So these thunderstorms, even though they are pulse storms and they blow up and then collapse in on themselves, they can remain active in their clusters for a prolonged period of time, and that's exactly what we've seen overnight in this part of WA, where absolutely nobody lives, so not a very interesting factor on the weather forecast up there. But heaps of convective available potential energy streaming into parts of WA here, especially for this time of the year. You can see great convective available potential energy values along their coastline, which is just causing those sea breeze thunderstorms to the Northern Territory, and that will also translate to high humidity values through later this afternoon and this evening. And of course, we've got the temperature that's now really beginning to build through WA, so there's going to be no shortage of conditions favourable for these thunderstorms. And just before I finish off this video update, we've got some rainfall coming in for the southwest of WA in a bit of a northwest cloud band, so we're expecting rainfall to begin to pipe up much later on tonight or into early tomorrow morning across the southwest Capes, reaching the Perth metro area by about 3 or 4 o'clock early tomorrow morning, and it really slowly picks up. It is kind of cold front related, but it's more sort of being dragged in by a cold front, and it's going to behave more like a northwest cloud band, which means temperatures will remain mild for the most part, and this rainfall is expected to be quite steady, not at all heavy. So through the Perth metro area, prolonged period of showers and rainfall expected through tomorrow morning into early tomorrow afternoon. We could see up to 15 millimetres of rainfall there, and then the rainfall kind of takes a bit of a hiatus through Saturday night into Sunday morning, returning it through early Sunday morning, and you can see we're expecting the central west to really cop some significant rainfall accumulations through Sunday into early Monday morning. So for a location, or for a line of locations between Perth up to about Kalbarri, but specifically between Jurien Bay and Geraldton through the central west, some big time rainfall accumulations are now a possibility. We could be talking about 75 millimetres coming through for this part of WA. It's northwest cloud band season, and this rainfall is expected to be quite heavy. Now, it doesn't really make it out into the Gascoyne region, but through parts of the Murchison and into the northern and the eastern wheat belt, and also through the goldfields in the south interior, good rainfall accumulations are a possibility. This rainfall starting up on Saturday, but really pushing through on Sunday night and into early Monday morning, and some pretty consistent rainfall accumulations are most certainly now a possibility. So whilst Perth is only looking at about 10 to 25 millimetres of rainfall, locations further inland such as Southern Cross, Kalgoorlie, or even into the south interior such as Rowena or Cocklebiddy, we could be seeing rainfall accumulations there between 30 to 60 millimetres, and then, like I said, along the central west coastline between 50 to 75 millimetres of rainfall. So some really healthy stuff is now a possibility, and that is of course reflected on the rainfall forecast modelling here from the Eastern WF. You can see rainfall accumulations actually expected to be substantially higher than that 75 millimetre mark, or just higher than that 75 millimetre mark towards the east of Kalgoorlie. Interesting stuff, that's for sure. And in other news, we've just got that westerly flow that's forecast to continue after a bit of a brighter weekend forecast across southeastern Australia. But apart from that, really not an awful lot more to be talking about, so I'm going to leave this weather forecast update here. If you have enjoyed this forecast update or found it informative, or both preferably, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A special shout out, of course, to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them, and their support is massively appreciated, as it always is. Go check out the Facebook page as well, subscribe for more updates, but that is going to be all for me today. Have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you on the next storm.